Scar has always been cunning, but here he's patient too. He's always been jealous of Mufasa too, but in this story, his hatred runs deeper. It isn't just about the throne, it's about Sarabi. Long before Simba's birth, Scar had his eyes on her. But when Sarabi chose Mufasa instead, Scar was left standing in his brother's shadow once again. Mufasa had the crown, the respect of the kingdom, and the lioness Scar loved. That rejection burned just as much as losing the title of king. Let's pause here, and I would like to learn what if you can come up with until this. So when Simba is born, Scar sees the symbol of everything he's been denied. Killing Mufasa outright wouldn't be enough. Death is quick, and Scar wants his brother to suffer the way he suffered, powerless, broken, stripped of everything that mattered. And what better way to do that than by stealing the one thing Mufasa treasures most? Not long after Simba's presentation, Scar makes his move. While Sarabi is briefly alone, he sends the hyenas to snatch the newborn cub. Chaos erupts, Zazu flies off to warn Mufasa, Sarabi races after the kidnappers, and Scar, ever the actor, stages his heroic rescue. He drives off the hyenas, cradling Simba as if he's saving his nephew. But the stampede Scar secretly orchestrated is already in motion. By the time Mufasa reaches the gorge, the wildebeest thunder past, and Simba is gone. From the cliffs above, Mufasa and Sarabi are left devastated, believing they've lost their son forever. And in that moment, Scar has exactly what he wanted. In the eyes of pride, he's the grieving uncle. But in the shadows, he carries Simba away to mold him to become his weapon. By raising Simba as his own and filling his head with lies, Scar is grooming Mufasa's heir to become the very weapon that will one day erase his brother's legacy completely. The cub grows up in the outlands, where the grass is thin, food is scarce, and survival is the only lesson worth teaching. Scar spins his lies carefully. He tells Simba that Mufasa murdered his mother, stole the throne, and banished them both to live among hyenas as he did not listen to his orders. To Simba, Scar isn't a jealous uncle anymore. He's father, protector, and mentor. But even though Scar is drilling him to be ruthless, Simba can't quite bury his true nature. He's energetic, curious, even playful at times. And it's in those small cracks of light that Timon and Pumbaa sneak in. They're not his full-time companions yet, but they're the only friends Simba trusts. The only ones who remind him what kindness looks like. Of course, Scar despises them and tries to have them killed more than once, but somehow they always slip away. Still, day by day, Scar's grip tightens. Simba trains harder, grows hungrier, and wears a scar across his eye like a brand of loyalty. Scar is grooming him for one purpose, to return to Pride Rock not as its prince, but as its destroyer. And you have to wonder, when your entire childhood is built on lies, how long can you tell yourself it's the truth? Back at Pride Rock, time doesn't stand still. Mufasa and Sarabi are devastated, but the kingdom needs an heir. Soon, another cub is born, Kian. This little brother grows up in Simba's absence, and he's everything Scar doesn't want Simba to be. Cautious, thoughtful, and just a little more responsible for his age. Nala becomes his closest companion. Zazu keeps watch as ever, and Rafiki quietly senses that destiny isn't finished weaving its threads. To the Pride, life slowly rebuilds, but Mufasa never truly recovers from the loss of his firstborn. He raises Kian with the same lessons he once gave Simba: wisdom, responsibility, the balance of the circle of life. But the shadow of Simba lingers, even if no one dares to say it out loud. Kian hears whispers from the hyenas about a lost prince. He asks Mufasa about it, and the king finally reveals the truth. Simba once existed, but tragedy took him away. Imagine being that cub, growing up with the knowledge that you had an older brother who should have been king. Would you feel honored to carry the mantle, or haunted that you're only here because your brother isn't? Years pass, and in the Outlands, Simba grows from a cub into a hardened young lion. Scar has turned the boy's life into a boot camp of survival. Day after day, Simba is drilled on hunting, fighting, and commanding hyenas. Scar tells him it's all for their glorious return, when they'll take back the kingdom that was stolen from them. Of course, Scar has been gone from Pride Rock all this time, but no one there is suspicious. The Pride simply believes Scar perished the same night Simba was lost. lost. With both of them gone in that stampede, Mufasa wrote it off as fate. And because Scar was never exactly beloved, no lioness bothered asking too many questions. He disappeared, the kingdom mourned, and life moved on. Meanwhile, Scar is busy building an army. The hyenas multiply into a pack of hundreds, following Scar and Simba with blind loyalty. Scar stirs them with promises of endless feasts, while grooming Simba with his twisted version of destiny. Even Be Prepared plays out differently here. Not just a villain's anthem, but a war cry Scar uses to paint a picture of Simba as the rightful king who will lead them all. But even in this darkness, Simba hesitates. In quiet moments with Timon and Pumbaa, he wonders what life might be like if he wasn't bound to Scar's war. For just a second, his true self peeks through. Yet whenever Scar catches a glimpse of that softness, he clamps down harder, reminding Simba that weakness is death. To Scar, there's no turning back. The war machine is already rolling. By the time Simba is grown, Scar is ready. Years of training, years of lies, all leading to this night. Under the cover of darkness, the hyenas surge across the plains like a storm, Simba at their head and Scar safely in the rear, letting his heir take the spotlight. At Pride Rock, Mufasa is older now, slower than the king we remember. Sarabi, the lioness who once kept the pride steady, is gone, claimed by time. Hit like if you think I'm insane, because you might be right. Kion, now a full-grown lion, rises to meet the attack. Nala fights by his side, the lionesses throwing themselves against Scar's endless horde. The battlefield is a blur of claws and roars, but in the middle of it all, two brothers who barely know each other finally clash. Simba and Kion collide, almost mirror images, except one carries the weight of Scar's lies, and the other the burden of Mufasa's truth. And while the cubs of Pride Rock fight for their home, Mufasa pushes through the battlefield, his eyes fixed on Scar. The two brothers lock eyes for the first time in years. For Mufasa, it's a shock he thought Scar was dead. For Scar, it's triumph, the moment he's been waiting for. And in the chaos of battle, the stage is set for one final betrayal that will change the Pride lands forever. After the attack, Scar has what he always wanted, Mufasa defeated and Kion chained up waiting for execution. Simba, though, is shaken. He's spent his whole life believing Scar's story, but watching his father push Mufasa to his death doesn't sit right. Something inside him cracks. Was this really justice or just cruelty? Scar orders Simba to guard Kion, and that's where everything flips. Kion, beaten but unbroken, looks his brother dead in the eyes and says the words Simba has never heard. "You're Mufasa's son. You're supposed to be the king, not Scar's pawn." Simba scoffs, but the words hit deeper than he admits. All his life, he's wondered why the bond between him and Scar felt off. And now the truth is staring him in the face. Rafiki enters in chains after defeat. The old shaman corners Simba in the wilderness, forcing him to see what Scar tried to bury. The sky splits and Mufasa's spirit appears in the clouds. "You have forgotten who you are," he tells Simba, and for the first time, Simba sees Scar's lies unraveling. That realization is both terrifying and freeing. Simba finally understands the only way forward is to take back his identity and face the uncle who stole it. With Timon and Pumbaa at his side, Simba sneaks back into Pride Rock and frees Kion and Zazu. When the dust settles, Simba doesn't claim the throne after confrontation. He can't. Instead, he steps aside and places the crown on Kion, who accepts it with Nala at his side. But Simba knows he doesn't belong there anymore, so he makes his choice. He leaves Pride Rock behind, walking off into the savannah with Timon and Pumbaa at his side. Before he disappears into the horizon, Simba looks back one last time. On Pride Rock, Rafiki raises Kion's cub high above the kingdom, the circle of life restored. And that's where I'll leave this story. But that's just my take. What do you think? If Simba came back years later, would the Pride ever forgive him for what he did under Scar's influence? Personally, I'd love to hear your thoughts, and if you're sticking around for more stories like this, go ahead and join the squad by subscribing. It's free, and you might actually learn something.